I saw a show that I saw Security Boss do, and she did a great show, and I'm going to bring that show up. And then I want Security Boss to come on as I start this show, as she was talking about why women are actually operating in their masculine. So I'm going to critique this show, guys. I want you guys to listen because this show is going to be paramount to not only why women should let the older women teach them, but also why men should why men should start demanding power instead of deferring power, because the deference of power has left our societies in the condition that it is. So I'm going to run this show. I'm going to critique, and then Security Boss, she's going to pop on. And then I'm going to run a show that I did with Sweet Lulu Bean from the Hoysian culture, where she's from a culture where the women are more or less conditioned to honor and respect their men. So guys, hold tight. I'm going to add this stream, and we're going to have
what's going on.
Hello.
We're going to have a conversation.
Everything's
That's
good.
my
How are
sister,
you all?
Sweet Security.
I'm doing good. About
what's up, my friend? How you feel?
I'm good. Y'all have an outstanding show going on tonight. It's outstanding. It's just ladies. I got to tell y'all something. A lady is a lady amongst everyone. So the femininity question that's just what it is. A femininity is a woman being a lady. And it's not having the last word. It's not the ego. You guys have some serious egos. Y'all got to win. And y'all got to stop. I promise you. Now, well, let me ask this question. I don't know how old you all are, but if you want to be married and you're over 30, you need to check yourself. I'm sorry. Y'all are beautiful women, but you're getting it wrong. All the fighting that you all do, got to have the last word, can't hear. That's not what men want.
And guys, listen how Security Boss Unsolicited dissected the whole concept of how some women think. She did a great job on the Lapeef show with Chicago Rilla, Lapeef, Anton, dissecting why sometimes our women operate in their masculine. Because they operate under the confines of the masculine, it will repel a very masculine man. Now listen, guys, I need you guys to share this content. It's about 17 people watching. It should be up to 50 to 100. I need you guys to share the content. And I'm going to bring Sweet Security Boss Unlimited on. We're going to have a dialogue about this show and why she came on. So she's actually popped in a minute, and we're going to chop up some comprehensive games. So keep listening, guys, real quick.
Not in a marriage relationship. It's not. Because women, ladies, are given a certain amount of wisdom in a relationship with a man, and they think differently from us. You may be right all day, every day, but if you cannot convey that message, you lost. Do you hear me? You have lost. You could be totally right. Kayla, everything you're saying may be absolutely right. And Anton might need a whole 24 hours to think about it and come back and say, you know what? Maybe she has a point. But if you can't allow him to have his place to think about it as a man, then you're wrong.
And see, guys, that's what we need. We need women like Security Boss Unsolicited. There was a time where we had the aunts and the grandmoms, the big mamas. They were the ones that channeled the conversation and held women accountable. But we live in a time now that when you hold people accountable, just like the gospel say, they won't love the truth. And while it appears that these women in general were receptive to Security Boss Unsolicited, many times a lot of women are not more or less open to speaking the truth in love. And because of that, they become saboteurs, guys, of their own demise. Many modern women are saboteurs of their own demise because they don't want to hear the wisdom of the elders. Shout out to my man Jason Phillips for the $10 super chat. Jason said, thank you for the program. And Security Boss Unsolicited and I are going to have a conversation as I dissect this in a few minutes. She's going to come on and she's going to tell us why she did the show with Lapeef, Chicago Rilla, Anton, and them, because there's a crisis in the world. And see, when men try to tell women what to do from right or wrong, they often bellow, you hate black women, your mama is black. That's the sentiment that a lot of black women say, your mom is black or you hate black women. But the truth is, when you hear it from a sister that's telling our sisters to get their act together, then what is the response then? And so you can't have a community if you can't have an ear to hear what the elders are saying. And that's why I do these shows. And I agree with the Ingram Experience and others. This challenge should have been way bigger than what it is currently. But sad that we live in a world where people don't more or less want the truth. So, guys, share the content because Security Boss Unsolicited is here. She is the queen of trying to get these women on the right path, as well as Sweet Lulu Beans. So hold tight. We're going to keep listening and breaking it down. All right. Security Boss, I don't know, it stopped. It froze for a minute. But you did this show. Tell the audience who you are, while this show was so important to you. We're trying to more or less educate women on the importance of being feminine, but also on the importance of being virtuous.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and spotlighting that show that night.
Right,
the reason why I was actually on that show is because I actually listened to Lapeef weekly, and I love their shows. I love their topics, but it had gotten so difficult to actually hear and understand what was going on because of all the over talking,
right?
All of the sometimes even the last word thing. It wasn't even on topic. It wasn't even someone trying to make a point. It was just, I'm gonna have the last word, and it just got so irritating for me to even, sometimes I'd be like, stop, So I felt like, indeed, if they want to be married, then someone maybe should just mention it to them in a kind voice, not tearing them down, not trying to, beat them over the head or change them, just some way kind of help them see what they're doing and maybe think of it a different way and approach things differently. Because what I do know is I don't think young people or young women often even think about how men think.
Right.
That they're even different from themselves. They kind of feel like they're equal and, we think and do things alike, but it's just so different that I think that they needed to, the men are left brains. Women are supposed to be right brains. They need to know that. They need to hear someone else say, even though they're talking to you and speaking to you and giving you another thought, they're not comprehending this the same as you might. So just back up, give them the space to be men. And, I'm not saying I got it all together. This has come from many years of focusing on my husband, learning him, reading books, putting in all the effort to be a good wife and to be, in a marriage relationship that is successful. This took some, I had to be into it. Like I said, I had to be humbled. I had to, well, you haven't gotten that part, but it took me, getting into this. It wasn't something I just learned overnight. Now, I often say my mother was a wife, and we did not sit down and have these conversations about being a wife. I just watched her. And I think I heard you say, even when your wife is mad, she'll fix your plate.
Right.
I don't care what my daddy did. I mean, he could have went out and stayed out all night. He still had breakfast in the morning. And, I used to question it. I question that kind of stuff because I'm like, I'm not understanding right now. But
right.
Whatever he did not interfere with what she was and who she was groomed to be. So I hope that answers your question.
But it was the duty and the honor to serve. It was about service. We talk about conditional femininity. That's what we talk about a lot. You talked about it on the Lapeef show. And conditional femininity appears to be the culprit of many modern women. Many want the benefits, Security Boss Unsolicited, of traditional mores, but they're not willing to more or less go through the evolution of becoming the woman that a man needs them to become. And because of that, many women will be single and alone. I created a term synonymous, but not the same as Kevin Samuels. He talked about shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. But because I am the kosher clinician, I wanted to be fit and proper. And I created my own terminology based on cognitive dissonance. It's called deaf. They deny the evidence when you present them with the evidence. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They argue, do what's called ad hominem attacks, and they fight you or they flee, just like sometimes women do now when you give them the evidence. And you and I have had conversations, I'm Security Boss Unsolicited, on the evolution of our current women. And we feel like it was that Gen X nexus when we begin to see the decline mentally and socially of so many men and women, but particularly a lot of our Black women. You talk about the evolution that you went through as a woman. Tell the audience about the evolution that you went through and why that was so paramount. And before you do it, let me shout out my man, James Turner. That's my homie. Shout out to my man, James Turner, for the $10 super chat. Kosher and Security Boss, let them get this work. and Security Boss definitely gave him the work. And I'm trying to get this thing back up because she was very judicious in her response. You know, she's a Libra, she's a scale balancer. She was very judicious in her response. But in my mind, she exuded the power of what the gospel said, let the older women teach the younger women. Not saying she's old, but, you know, I had to qualify that. I had to qualify that. But my point is, you know, her and I, we're Gen X's. And so some people see us as elders. You know, I'm 50, you know, I don't know her age, but, you know, she's a Gen Xer like me. So, you know, I'm 50, but I still got swag. Don't get it twisted. I might be 50, but I still got that Leo swag. But I'm gonna try to pull this show back up, and I want you to break down what you was talking about, sis. Hold tight.
You are wrong. I hate to say it, ladies, but it's true. And if y'all want to be married, you got to check that. You cannot have the last word with these men. And if you think you can turn it on and off, meaning Anton's on the platform, but when I get home with my man, I'm different. That's not true. You're the same person. You are. But y'all are beautiful. And if you want that kind of life, you want to be married, you got to check it. Now, getting back to the pick me and the ladies with the ladies been talking SHIT about each other for the longest, especially if they think there's one in the crowd that's winning. The woman that's winning, y'all are putting her down, talking SHIT, trying to sleep with her man. And you know it. You've been doing it forever. That's why you don't have girlfriends. That's exactly why. That's what women do. That's what y'all do. It's true. If a whole bunch of girls get together, 2 or more, somebody's and one's winning. I mean, winning, got a great guy, have a good relationship, kind of putting her out there by herself. No, I'm being with my man tonight. She trying to get at him before so long. It's just how y'all operate. It's true. It's true. Now, it's just true. I know it. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Hopefully, we can get over it. Now, on the flip side of that, some of these pick-me's are red flags. I don't believe them. They're not genuine, and they're just trying to get a man. So
let's talk about the evolution of the pick-me's. Let's talk about the evolution, Security Boss Unlimited, of this fake femininity movement. And let's talk about conditional femininity. Let's talk about that because that's a loaded question. But what's your take on these, what I call strains of femininity? Because as you know, as I told you, you know, me and my wife have arguments, but when we have arguments, she don't stop cooking. She still cook. We can have a big argument, she'll still cook. But a lot of women now, you know, have an argument, well, I ain't gonna cook. So it appears that, to me, that duty supersedes feelings. And then when a woman duty can supersede her feelings, then in my mind, she really loves that man. But what's your take on, and what were you trying to convey from that short clip? And I'm gonna finish the whole clip out at some point. Go ahead.
well, I'm just going to use myself for an example. I decided at 19 years old that I was going to be the type of woman that wore heels, that got my hair done, that wore makeup, and always went out very polished. I decided that at 19 that I wanted to be that woman. Always needed to smell good. You know, that was just who I was. And me alone, no man, decided that. So I was going to always be that person no matter what. My clothes were going to be ironed. It was going to smell good. The hair was going to be good. That was that. The next part is, as I continued to grow up, that was who I was. So I wasn't going to lose that. That couldn't go anywhere. That was me. That was going to be my presentation. I didn't put it on. It was just who I became. I decided that.
Right.
The second part was, once I did, I mean, that was actually, or let me go back a little bit to that. Also, with that being that lady, I also decided that I wasn't going to indulge in a lot of different things. I wasn't going to get high. I wasn't going to drink liquor. I wasn't going to use a lot of curse words. I just didn't feel like that was me being a lady. So I didn't relate to that. So I became very standoffish. I didn't become very standoffish. I was standoffish because I wasn't a part of the group. The group of ladies, they hang with the guys. They got high with the guys. They went to parties and drank with the guys. And I didn't do that. I was, not that I found anything wrong with it back then. I'm just looking at it now and just saying to myself that I didn't do it, you know? So I was a little bit as a standoff. So as I went on and got married, Now, I did go to the club older. When I got older, I went to the club, but there came a time when I said, "You know what? I don't wanna do this anymore." And then I decided I wanted to be married.
Mhm.
And then when I got married, there was some things about it I didn't understand. So, the evolution of it is marriage is very serious. And I
Right.
think when we are younger, or the young women these days, they don't take it seriously. They kinda think it's just an extension of a relationship, boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right, right,
But
right.
it's not. I mean, you get married and the next day you kinda ask your spouse, "Did something change?" And your first thought might be a no,
Mhm.
but it really is a huge change if you're doing it on godly principles. If you're just living together, maybe not. So, I started to then, because my husband has been an alpha male entrepreneur ever since the moment I met him, even if
Right.
he didn't have a business.
Right, yes, ma'am, right.
Okay, but I grew up with workers.
Mhm.
My dad and mom were workers. They had good jobs. They worked for good companies, Duke Energy, school system. That's what they did, and
Mhm.
they worked, never missed a day. So they had good work ethics and very good morals, and that's how they raised me. But to marry a man that didn't have a job was like, "Huh? What you
Mhm.
gonna do? How's this
Mhm.
gonna work?"
Mhm.
So I allowed him, and this is no joke, y'all. I allowed him to come into my life, but I had to actually cling to him and leave my mother and father
Right,
because
right. I like that. Right, right.
I
And that's
had
the whole
to.
point. Right.
I
And
had
and
to.
and that's the way it should be. There should be a cleaving to your man because when you leave your family, you're under the authority of your father. I mean, of your husband. But I think security boss unsolicited that many of our women have not seen masculine authority. They have not been conditioned to respect black men, and because of that, when you speak, when Sweet Lulu Bean speak, you ladies exude a greater level of respecting masculine order because you saw it. Many of our women have been conditioned not to respect men. They don't respect masculine authority, and it's caused a lot of dysfunction. As a licensed therapist, I did something when I did the show with April Mason. It talked about a genogram. And a genogram is a chart that's used to measure dysfunction, physical health, abuse, and trauma. And I'm going to do a show soon talking about the unconscious pathologies of April Mason as well, because a lot of our women are actually marinated in trauma and they're not even aware of it.
Right.
And it's led to an ego defense mechanism called repression. They actually have repressed some of the things that they're dealing with to the point that they are sabotaging themselves and they're sabotaging their relationships. To the 26 people that are listening, guys, please share the content. Share this content with at least 5 to 10 people. Help me get this channel to 3,000. Shout out to my man, the Ingram Experience. Go check him out. Miss Parker's Back to Basics. Go check her out. And I agree, this channel should definitely be moved along a lot further. But it appears, Miss Security Boss Unsolicited, when we speak the truth, a lot of times the truth is not received, in fair favor. What's your take on that? Because it appears that these women receive you for the most part, but the body language was like ambivalent. It's like I'm listening, but so. What was your take on when you were giving these women some wisdom from the elders?
So let me say this, Kosher. What I've noticed, and just listening to you also, um, women and men, but we're talking about the women right now. In their defense, they're not being taught.
Right.
And if someone were to instruct them or teach them or make them recognize the benefit of men, then I think it would be a lot different. Mostly what they're doing is kind of being attacked about what is true, and it's just not being received. I
Mhm.
happen to think that one or two of those women on the Lapeef panel are, wifey material or can be considered feminine. They just may be socially immature and just not
Right.
ready for it.
Right.
But
Right.
with
Right.
but with guidance, they will be. But again, if they're not experiencing it, not going through it, or no one is at telling them what not to do, then they're not going to receive it well. Nobody wants to be told that you're wrong or rejected when you're
Right.
just, you're on a platform and you're just being rejected every night because of what you're doing or because of your opinion. No one is saying, you know what, you got a great opinion. If you delivered it differently, more people could hear you. You
Right.
know, we're mostly saying, "You out of control, just shut up." Basically, that's what we're saying. I mean, because
Mhm.
it's just gotten to that point. So, to the defense of some women, of course they haven't seen it, but even with me, there was no conversation. My mother didn't sit down and tell me how to act. I watched her. So I just think now most women are being trained to be independent thinkers because that's all you got, and they think independently. For whatever reason, they don't need, or they feel like their opinion is just as good as the male counterpart that they're speaking to. And
right. And they don't understand that with men, the greatest thing that you can give a man is respect. And I get so tired of these tired tropes, security boss unsolicited, about, black men being the adversaries of black women. Black men never had the power to oppress black women. We were both mules. We were both subjects under the laws of Jim Crow racism. So when I hear these, they're always saying, my granddad, he beat grandmama. It's always from the negative. But we don't talk about the good black men in your family that was loyal to their wives or they provided. We always default to the negative. Why is that in your opinion? Then I'm going to finish playing this clip. Why is that?
Oh, I have no idea why we default to the negative, but we spotlight only negative behavior because there are so many women out there right now that are traditional women. Not perfect now. They still have to find a husband to mate and to become one with. But men are overlooking them because they're looking for what is it fit, fine, and I don't even know. But they're only observing the exterior and not getting into or allowing these women who carry a certain amount of morals with them to speak to them long term. I mean, I even heard, after the third day, if you haven't done it yet, had sex yet, then they may move on. I'm here to tell you, a woman who is a traditional woman may not have sex by the third date.
No, I agree with that.
Not because she doesn't like you. It's just that they've been taught that that's your virtue.
Right. I agree with that.
You got to hold on to it. Now, I'll say this too. My husband and I were married within 6 months because we were not going to be fornicating. I knew, you come to a point where and we did it. But,
right.
But I'm just saying today's society is very different. And, I just don't want someone traditional women are out there and we do just spotlight the bad behavior. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly why because, well, no, we already know bad behavior has an appearance of winning, has that appearance of winning. Now, what is it winning? I have no idea what it's winning, but this has the appearance of women. I don't know why we do that, but there are a lot of traditional women out there. And I wish men would take a step back and just reevaluate sometimes what exactly they're looking for in order to find that good woman and not have her be overlooked. Because I think you said this best. Well, you said it 7 to 1. There are 7 women to 1 man.
Right.
So he does have an opportunity to select a few, but if he's selecting the wrong ones initially, by the time he got to traditional one, he too is spoiled.
Right. According to the book of Isaiah, the time will come where there'll be 7 women to 1 man. And if every woman got married, according to some prognosticators, there'll still be 2 million women left without a husband. And so I agree with that. I'm old school traditional. Listen, the man in me probably want to sleep with a woman in 3 dates, but because I'm a traditionalist, I'm old school. I'm an old school romantic. I got that Leo swag. So if a woman giving me her body in 3 weeks, I don't know if I'm gonna take her serious with my wife.
Right.
That's just me. I mean, now some guys that they want to have sex with a woman fast, they might expect it, but I don't necessarily expect it if I see her as a wife. If I see her as somebody to have fun with, then maybe. But if I see her as my potential wife in 3 weeks, I know times are different, but I'm just old school. I'm old school like you. I grew up different. And
but you know what, Kosher? Women are followers, and traditional women too want a man.
Right.
And they may do whatever's requested because they feel like they're going to receive that man. So that's what I mean. It's a very hard call because I do think women are followers. If a man is showing interest and they're sharing that they like us, they're talking about a future, and I just think a lot of women, traditional women, will get aboard and do whatever it is they're asked to do and find out later that they made a mistake or it just wasn't maybe a good fit. But guess what? It's too late now.
Right. And I understand where the men are coming from. You know, Ingram experienced that there are plenty of women to choose from, but very few meet the qualification of wife material. I agree with that in whole. I think you are a dime breed security boss unsolicited. I think you're a dime breed. And then some guys feel like, why should I have to wait over 3 days if she gave it to Raekwon and Man Man? You know, she didn't make them wait. So why do I have to wait? Because let me tell you something. What I've learned with women, women know within 5 minutes they want to have sex with you. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No.
Okay, so tell me why it's more nuanced. Do you feel like, listen to what I'm saying? I said I didn't say they would have sex with a man, but they know within a certain amount of time, just on his physical appearance, whether or not he could get it. She might not sleep with him, but she might say, you know what, he can get it, but I'm not gonna act on it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I still disagree.
Okay,
I
that's fine. Go ahead,
understand
tell
what
me why.
I do understand what you're saying about the physical attraction,
Right.
but it's a lot of things that go into it. You could have a good looking man, but he might not smell good. Or you might
Okay.
have a good looking man that shows up goofy, or I'm more of an intellectual person. I don't like game. You can
Right.
maybe have
Right.
a good looking man that's really nice to you and just
Mhm.
showers you. That's a turnoff to me. I don't want that. I want a simple man.
Okay.
I want
Okay.
a simple man with manly qualities.
Right.
Now,
Right.
now your next question is, if you saw that, would you want to sleep with him in 5 minutes? I still would be testing the waters, especially now. I
Right.
still would be sitting back. Is this real? Is this really real? Is this his game? Because that was one of the things I told my husband when I met him. He was different because he was so simple. And what I
Mm.
mean by simple, he was just whatever it was, it was. It was just no game. He just came very simple to me, and it just seemed like it fit. Now, 5
Right.
minutes, no. 24 hours, yeah, because I talked to him probably about 24 hours the 4th or 5th time I talked to him. So after he won my brain, if I heard some people say, then I did know that I would sleep with him. But it was
Well. Right.
none of that.
Well, maybe you're the sapiophile or they call him a sapiosexual. I guess what I'm saying, when you met your husband, he was smelling good, he was looking good, he
Right.
was simple, but
Mhm.
he's big. This big man, your husband's a big man,
Yes.
and I know that when you met your husband, I'm not saying that you said, well, yeah, he could get it, but my point is, women have met men, and within 5 minutes, just off physical, not the intellectual, not this, they said, wow, just off the physical, they're sexually attracted to him. I'm not saying they're going to act on it, but they's like, wow, if he checks off all the marks, yeah, he can get it. That's what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I would say yes to that.
Right.
I would say yes to that. And then I also hear that what you're saying is, don't even well, I didn't hear you say it, but someone else said, don't even date a man that you wouldn't sleep with. I kind of agree with that too. If you don't feel like you are able to procreate with him or have sex with him, why even bother? Yeah, I agree with that. That does make sense.
Right.
But I
Right.
just
Right.
don't think you know what, Coach, it's pretty hard because I think about so many different things for this modern day. For me, sex is death. You sleep with the wrong person, you might die.
That's
It's just
true.
a little bit, back in the day. Oh, the Ingram experience. To answer your question, I was married 26 years, November the 14th.
That's a blessing.
So I've been married over half of my life.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's a blessing. Same as me.
Yeah. So,
Same as me.
but listen, I was no angel. I did what I did before I got married, and then I said to myself, "I'm done. It's time to be married." So that's kind of weird too. So,
Well,
I'm just
well,
being honest.
well. You're very honest, and I respect your honesty because I am too. There are some men that say if a woman is not a virgin, she doesn't necessarily deserve the virtues of having to go through this long courtship. I can see that too,
Yeah.
because a lot of guys are saying, why should I give a woman that's not traditional at the core all the virtues of a? Because see, women of the past were taught your virginity is your virtue. Save that for your husband. Being wife ready is your virtue. Being industrious is your virtue. Keeping your body fit is your virtue. Those things were the virtues that men look for. Men are the arbiters of chivalry. We determine what chivalry is. We determine what kind of women that we want. And a lot of guys are saying, why am I waiting to give this woman all of this when she gave it to Raekwon and Man Man for free? Raekwon Man Man just got it off swag. So a lot of guys, yeah, go ahead.
You know, if that's the case, you know, that's a red flag. That's not something that's real. I agree with you. Anytime you can pick up on a red flag, believe it and run. I'm not telling you to fake it or, you know, accept anything that's less than what you have already written out to be your ideal woman. I'm just saying, if you're going to have the list, stick to the list. You know, don't, because obviously we can't pretend that these BBLs ain't working. You know, these big butts and breasts and small waists, that's working.
It's working. Right. It's working.
Let's not pretend that it's not working.
It's working in the short term. Like they said, these hoes be winning, but they're not really winning because they're not building legacy and men don't have husbands. They might have a lot of bodies, but they don't have a husband.
Okay, Coach, I think I told you this, and I don't know if I said it today, but we used to always do marriage classes and couples classes and things like that. We actually used to teach youth, me and my husband. And someone once told my husband, because he's really big on the fit and feminine, right? I've been an exercise and an athlete my whole life. I just love, that's what I do. But listen, someone told him that a high class escort could fool him. Because he is so much on the appearance. And, you know, a high class escort is coming in fit and feminine. She coming right. She's saying exactly. She's rubbing the bald head. She cooking the breakfast. She's doing whatever is necessary to get that money from that man. And I don't know how long it would take an individual to recognize it, but that's the state that we're in. That's the BBL. High class. I'm not saying everybody got a BBL. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you the comparison on how women can fool you. A high class escort. And then he sit there and thought about it. He was like, gosh, you might be right. Because, you know, we all looking for the quote whore to come in looking a certain way. But not all the time. They prim and proper. So then what do?
You know, and I know that they are chameleons. That's why guys are so cautious now, because guys know that women can be very duplicitous. Guys know that women will become what you want them to become to get into the relationship, and then they pull the mask off once you say I do. And part of it is part of evolutionary science, where a woman, it's called survival of the fittest. She wants to get the best of men. So she is going to try to do everything in her power to get that man in a relationship. But if that woman has true feminine demure and true feminine virtue, she's going to be who she is regardless of the circumstances of the situation. And that's the difference. That's the difference. And that's what you were talking about. Let's finish looking at this clip real quick, sis. I know you got to go, and I want you to keep breaking it down.
No, I'm fine, but yeah.
Okay. Hold tight.
You're right about that, Kayla. I agree with that also. I do. But to go on with the statement of the pygmy, just to do all this to get a man, men do need women and women do need men. So that's the pushback. Women hate for men to say they don't need them, but I believe they do. I just think that some of it is a little bit of manipulation and, you know, just now on YouTube, a talking point. So.
Security boss, you think that we need women?
I do. I do think you need women. Not for survival purposes. I mean, y'all can build. In a general sense. I think that's the way you were made. I think that for me, I go back to the godly principles. We were made to be together, and that's my thoughts.
So I mean, but if we translated it into real life, everyday scenarios, right?
Okay.
Why do we need women?
For me, Anton, it still goes back to the way we think. The way you think. I think in order to be complete in your manhood, you need a woman.
You think so?
I do. Otherwise, what are you doing? What makes you the leader if it's only a bunch of men?
And we talked about this, security boss. When it comes down to utility, because men are builders, we don't necessarily need women for that.
I agree.
And you agree with that. And I see where Anton was at, because I do agree. I agree with you and Anton. Y'all just talking in different angles.
Right.
But I do believe that I've said in the past that men and women were optimized to be synchronized. They were optimized to be synchronized. That more or less talks about the phallus and the vagina. You know, we're synced. And so men and women are at their best when they work together. The gospel even said that it was not good that man be alone. Adam was lonely. He was alone, but he was never lonely. But he was a better version if he had a woman to help build his kingdom. But the sad thing is, most women don't come into relationships ready to build. They see themselves as the prize automatically without earning that. And I'm going to do a show, guys, at some point called The Return of the Prize Catchers. Because a woman is a prize only if that man deems her to be a prize. She could be a prize in her head. But if that man does not see her as prize worthy, and because so many of our men have not been taught how to demand what they want, then Water seeks its own level. Shout out to BJS Ipmore and shout out to Ron Wills, but Water seeks its own level, which basically means if that woman is a one and that man is a one, if that man does not see her as prize worthy, she can do everything she wants to do. She's not going to get that man. And because women are naturally hypergamous, and all hypergamy is not bad because there's kosher hypergamy and carnal hypergamy, she still got to go through certain levels to get the man that she wants. So she could be the prize in her head to simps, because a lot of times simps will gas a woman up. But to that top tier man, she's not the prize, because that man has many options. And so as the gospel said, the bride prepared herself for the bridegroom. She was prepared to come in to serve that man. What's your take on that? And we're going to finish this clip. What's your take on that, sis?
No, you are. I agree with what Anton just said or was saying, and he explained to me. See, when I'm speaking to people, or in this case, Anton, I'm thinking from a successful marriage point of view. Right. I'm not thinking about people who may have codependency issues or things of that nature. So what the message he was trying to convey to me was that he didn't want men to think that they needed women to be the best form of themselves. Well, I should say that differently. To be whole within themselves. Mm-hmm. You need to be whole first, and then the woman should complete that. Right. That's my thoughts. So he explained it to me. So I agreed with that. So I agree with you both that, and I always say this, and I get a little pushback with this, but I say women want men that want them. Women a lot of times are pretending to be in control, and, I don't want this, I won't have this, and I won't do this. But I think that if that man is being confident, I don't care who that man is. I'm going to say it just like that. I don't care who the man is. If he's confident enough, he can get a woman. And it may not be a one. It could be, I don't know. He may not be a high value. I just think if he's confident enough in what he's doing, and sometimes we label them as Pookie and Ray Ray, they can get that woman. And it may be any woman. So those are my thoughts. So I'm agreeing with you,
Right. No, I feel you, sister. No, and I know you are. I'm actually this complimented. Guys, to the 27th of the Washington, please share the content. This was a great show. Security Boss Unsolicited is my sister. She's a good sister. I love her. I love what she's trying to do. She's an honest sister. She's a traditional woman from the old school. And listen, my heart goes out to the Gen Xers, to the millennials and the zennials. I know the times are different. So my heart goes out to you guys. You guys have a different situation. Security Boss and I were in a time where the family was more intact and community was more intact. So it would be remiss of me to minimize the struggles that millennials and zennials go through as it relates to the modern woman. So I'm very empathetic to you guys. Guys, please share the content, and shout out to my young lion. I call him the young lion. Shout out to my man before the billions. Thank you, sir, for the $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. And we're going to keep listening because you made some very great points on this show. Keep listening, guys. It's a lag in my computer. Hold tight. It'll pop on in a minute. Can you hear me? Is it running?
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm gonna let it run because every time I stop it, it'll catch on, then it'll stop. But what are you gathering from the conversation? There's a lot of good comments that the people are saying. Then the next time I run it, I'm just gonna let it run because every time I stop it, it's a lag. Hold tight. Let me hit it again. Because I want you to finish talking about what you were talking about, because you had some excellent points. I saw the show last night. I saw the show, and I said, wow, this sister definitely got the spirit of the mongoose. When you hear me talk about the spirit of the mongoose, how does that resonate within your psyche?
Well, you had to explain it to me, but I think it rings pretty true. But I do have to say, anytime I say something, or every time before I say something, I always ask God to use me. So it's not per se me. I'm always asking to be used.
Mhm.
So hopefully whatever comes out, it's landing in the correct place. I don't pretend to be. I'm always asking for guidance.
Right,
When I'm
right.
on these platforms and somebody asks me something, you can go back and look at all my videos. It's kind of funny. Even about a year ago, I'm so consistent with what I'm saying, even almost using the same words. I'm like, dang, I didn't know it.
Mhm.
So I'm always asking to be used, and whatever he puts on my heart to say, whenever I do, I try to always say it and not question it. And again, though, sometimes I do wonder and sometimes I fight with it because I'm like, okay, this is not going to be received well. But then I say, well, I got to do it anyway. Can't even walk away. You know, you can't even walk away. You have to go ahead and just say whatever it is that is on your heart to say.
You talk about your evolution as a woman, and I met your husband by voice, and he sounds like he's like me. He's a masculine man, they got that Leo swag, but you talk about your evolution as a woman. How does your husband shape you into the woman that you are now? And what would you tell the young women that are listening, but also the young men, how they should more or less demand what they want from a woman?
Well, Coach, this is kind of crazy because I feel like I didn't before, but now on the in the YouTube place, I feel now that it's crazy because my husband made me the boss. I am the face of our company.
Mhm,
Security Boss is a real thing. I'm a co-owner of a corporation,
mhm.
and my husband made me the face of that business because
Right,
minority women are winning.
right.
But I didn't know the word boss carried so much negativity.
It
So,
does, right.
he didn't know either. For us, it's just like, this is who you are, this is what you do. But, I always say in my business, when I do manage and instruct men, mostly men, they don't see my energy or they don't take my energy as contrasting. They actually receive it as, I'll do whatever she says. It's funny, they actually say that. They actually say, they tell Chief, I'm captain and he's chief. They'll tell Chief, I can't tell her no. I'm he it's just so funny. So it's not even though I am the boss, I am the captain, they still receive it as feminine energy. And I still
Well,
get things done.
well, but see, this is what I love about your situation. Your husband ordained you, but you're still under the guidance of your husband. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely.
And see, that's the difference. You got a lot of these so-called boss chicks, but they're not under the authority of a man. Do you
Right.
see the difference?
I
Your
do.
husband ordained you and gave you that role, but
Right.
you're the captain. But in my mind, the chief is higher than the captain.
He
You're just
is,
an
definitely.
offshoot of your husband's operation, but you're still serving your husband. But a lot
Right.
of women that have that title, they don't serve a man. They believe in egalitarian relationships where they're one. And that's the
Right.
difference with a lot of relationships and women now. They have been taught to be egalitarian and they want traditional benefits when it's only beneficial to them, not as it relates to the benefit of the man running his program. And that's why so many young men are frustrated, security balls unsolicited. They're frustrated because how can women on one end talk about godliness and dominion? And the gospel clearly says that the woman was made for the man, and that woman is the glory of man, as man is the glory of God. I didn't say it; the gospel said it to the women that are Christians. But then when it comes down to them following out the mandates of the gospel, then all of a sudden now they're modern, and that's
Right.
why it's called a schizoid effect. It's a splitting of the mind, and that's why guys are so frustrated because they want women like Ted Pentecost and somebody to love you back. Men want cooperation and peace. And
Right.
that's why I do these shows. My job is to help men get the solace that they need. I've had so many men come to me for non-diagnostic consultations. I'm helping a lot of black men behind the scene because I'm trying to teach men when they learn to love themselves and learn to demand power, they're going to get the outcomes that they want. Because Security Boss Unsolicited, and I know that women only respect power and your strength. And your husband is a masculine man. And I
Right.
and I'm going to guess because you do have you're a very educated woman and intelligent, but I think you will run over a weak man. I don't think you would do it intentionally.
I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
do you think you would, or you don't think so? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't know how. I don't really know what a weak man looks like. I mean, when you say that,
Okay,
I don't know.
right, because you've
Um,
always seen strength, right?
I don't want no dumb man. Is a weak man a dumb man? I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I could not exist with a dumb man. No.
right. So the culmination of a strong man is a combination of physical strength and mental dexterity. It's a combination of all. I think because you are intellectual, intellect means more than you than anything. I think your first they'll laugh because you are Libra. Libras are very intellectual. So if a man was a hobbit but he was an intellectual, I think you would like that man. Am I right or wrong? If that man was 5'6", but he was an intellectual, I think you still would like that man.
I think so too. I don't think it. That's what I'm saying. I don't know when we say weak men. I don't know what that really means. But let me tell you something. I don't care. I think if I would have married a man, I would have encouraged him to do as much as he could, no matter what. No matter, even if he was lax in some areas or didn't know some things or whatever it was. I feel like I would have been the motivator. I feel like I would be the one pushing him. So I just think that's kind of where I fit for whatever reason.
So you sound like a natural cheerleader. You are.
Oh yeah, I am. I mean, that's what I do daily. I do that daily in my own personal business. I have young men come in all the time, child support issues, gosh, you name it. Don't have a driver's license, been caught up with police for just stupid reasons. And they're scared to death. They're not going to tell me they're scared, but they don't want to face that whatever's happening next because they just don't know. I will take my time to walk them through what needs to be done. And I'd be like, look, kick down that door. Go get your driver's license. Don't be afraid. Drive legally or don't drive. I try to make everybody accountable. And weak or not, I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you to some level of accountability. And I think when you do that, that changes people.
No doubt. I agree with that. Whole time I'm trying to finish playing this. Hold tight, sis. Hold on.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the thing about it is that, see, when I say we think we need a woman, I'm talking about being in a relationship or a marriage with a woman.
Okay.
Right? I think it's a nice to have. I think that it adds value, but it's like anything else, right? I was going to be awesome whether I was married or not. I was going to fulfill a purpose whether I was married or not. And so, my drive to be successful and to add value into this world, which is to, leave it in a better space had I not been here, was the thing that I was going to do regardless of whether or not I was going to align with a woman or not. It had no bearing on me whatsoever.
So does that only apply, Anton, for men?
Yes.
Okay, so women don't have purpose outside of men.
I think that women's purpose largely, and I'm speaking for the majority, I'm not speaking for the anomaly. There's always going to be some people that fall outside of that box. But I think that largely women's purpose on this earth is to support the men.
But do they have purpose?
Men's purpose is to conquer, build, and to take over the world. And women's purpose is largely tied to the men that they align themselves with.
Anton,
everything revolves around us.
I agree
everything.
with that.
I do agree with what you're saying, and I do think that you would have been fine on your purpose. I just think that having a wife and being in a marriage relationship made you better.
I agree. I don't think that. Listen, I agree with you that it probably did make me better. I don't disagree, not one bit. But my point is, but it goes back to the original question. I don't need a woman.
No, I don't. No, not for survival. I don't think either gender needs for survival, but I think they operate in completeness when they're together.
I agree. They operate best when they're together and they understand their roles.
Yes.
I agree.
Totally. And it actually fulfills the total purpose of us being here when they're together. I do agree with you. Now, Kayla, I see so many similarities. I used to say the same thing that you just said. Is my only purpose to be married? I used to hate that. But I had to pray about that. And I definitely had to learn my husband and my role and all of that for it to make sense to me. But it's bigger than that. When you are in a marriage relationship, the purpose of being a wife is greater. It's more than just cooking and cleaning. And also you kind of fit in that relationship where you're needed. It goes further than that. If you need to be the financier, you are that person. But you and your husband, you come up with that plan. You you kind of become one and you decide, or you all both decide together where you fit. It could be so many different things. It doesn't have to be, I mean, I know people see it such a narrow thing as being just cooking and cleaning. Your husband could be the chef. You may not ever have to cook. That may be where he feels good. You may be the person that, well, some say the idea person and you have the closer. You may be the closer. That could be where you fit in that relationship. It's not that simple. It's who you mate with. So that would be your purpose. It's all about finding and getting it right that one time, though. And you can't do that with resistance. It's a humbling thing to be married. It's no longer about you.
I love
Security
that.
Boss.
I love that.
Hey,
you look like you got a podcast. Where can we find you at?
You know what? I've managed to have 3 since the last time I talked to you all. But right now it's Security Boss Unsolicited. And I also have a Rich Auntie. My Rich Auntie podcast is for those basically 30 and under. I'm getting to that next generation who wants to be married. And Anton, they don't think the Black culture is trash. They want to be married.
There's so much trash.
It is. They realize it, but they're trying to turn it around. I'm dealing with influencers.
You gotta burn it. You can't turn it around. You gotta burn it and start over.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing our best. But I'm talking to them because if they have a lot of influence, then they can speak to a lot of other people, a lot of young people, and we can make a difference.
I got you.
You see what we old folks are doing, right?
I love you. I think that you're one of the most awesome people ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're dope. I absolutely adore you. You know that.
Thank you. So, JR, I have something to say to you. And I've been fighting with this because I don't want this to come off wrong. But your last thing about overstepping boundaries, and I pray that this lands in the right place. But what I even wrote it down. So listen to this. I want to tell you, JR, your silence is powerful. Don't allow anyone to pull you out of it. And I hope that finds you in a good place.
Okay.
And I hope I didn't overstep my boundaries.
Oh, no, you're good. I don't take
right.
it personal.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing actually, but I want you to think about it.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. I can't make no promises. I mean, I might turn up every now and then. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Well, you know, sometimes that's necessary because you are the man in charge. So just think about what I'm saying. You're very powerful. You're very powerful in your silence, and it's kind of one of those things when you allow someone to pull you out, it's just you become equal, and you're not equal.
All right, I'm gonna sleep on that one. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you guys.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Security
much.
Boss.
Appreciate you.
So
thank you.
Thank
you, Auntie.
So Security Boss, what would you say was when you more or less break that show down? That show did very well. There's a young lady that actually I saw it from it. It got about 20,000 views. So you did a very good job. But when you think about cerebrally about how that show went, what would you give it from a rating scale from an A to B? Would you say it was well taken? Do you think the women are going to take it to heart, or do you think it's going to go to one ear and go out the other?
Well, you know, I actually saw it. I saw it displayed like maybe the next Thursday, where Kayla actually began to present herself in the physical more as a lady. You know, she was very poised, didn't argue as much. You know, I felt like she listened to what I said. Now, she's not going to be perfect at it, or she may not even accomplish it that soon. It's something that you have to consciously work at to do different. But first, you have to admit that you had that kind of issue. But of course, by midway show, Anton in Chicago, or whoever it was, pulled her out. And she, you know, she reverted back to what she knew the best. But
right.
I think as it's showing itself. So if you can see it, if you can take a moment for the young ladies, if you could take a moment and see that you're actually doing what I said, then I think they can change if they want to. But like I told you earlier, I think a lot of it is just being socially mature enough to even handle somebody doesn't think I'm right. You know,
Right. I think it's being socially mature, but also being socially conditioned with the admonition of the elders is what makes it even more sustainable. I like what Anton said. I've always said, I don't think we'll see this revival in our lifetime, Security Boss. I don't see it, not in our lifetime. You know, I don't see
Well,
it in our lifetime.
I hear what you're saying, but everybody, not everybody, I'm not gonna make a comment like that. There's so many people around me that are married, that got young married and been married 25, 30 years. It's all, well, you in the South, you should see this. It's a lot of us that are married and are couples just like yourself and me. So when people say, people are not getting married anymore and all these women, modern women are not doing this, it's like, wow, there's a whole nother world out there. This is what I say. My world is so small because people around me do what we do. So, and it's a lot of us been married forever, first time husbands, married in their 20s, some straight out of high school, some straight out of college. So it's just, we're not done. I mean, we have children, mine didn't do what I'm doing, but there are some out there that made it through, they penetrated the brains, and the ladies, the young girls are being married and the young men are marrying their girlfriends. I got a friend right now, his sons, both of them, they were twins. They married at about 21, both of them. And him and his wife married at about 19. So, and they're still together. First, not saying it's perfect. Everybody has problems. A marriage is what you make it, and it's going to be some work. But it's first, you need to understand that this is for real thing, and this is what we're doing. It's not taken lightly. And you just got to make it work. I don't really know why people, again, flake out during marriage. I mean, there could be some deal breakers, and I think all that should be discussed in the beginning. But I just think you'll find issues with anybody. But if you got a list, stick to it. And if those things that are on your list are deal breakers, don't compromise on your list going in. Don't do it.
Well, I think the boomer women more or less seduced our women into the pathology that we have now, to the point that the Gen X women ran with it. And you, I think, are a relic of the past. There are a lot of sisters like you that think that way. They're trying to do the right thing. So kudos to you. But I think the newer generation of women have never really seen true traditional families. They don't think that they should go into a relationship to serve. You got to understand, a lot of these women are going to liberal colleges where they've been conditioned. Right. They've been conditioned to think, security boss, that if I serve a man, I'm a slave. They always go back to the Mr. Mr. It's always like, April said it indirectly, but it's always this painting of black men in a negative light, like we were abusive. We want you to be barefoot and pregnant. You can't have a voice. It's always the man's fault. There's no introspection. There's no internalization. And so a lot of guys respect you, but also a lot of men are saying that you are a microcosm of the past. You're a microcosm of the past. And, you're optimistic. And I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm very realistic. And CGLA said this, and he's right. Women will play the tradition after they have that 304 out. They will start to say, I'm born again, celibate, etc. after they have traveled hard down the sex highway in serial dating. So based on what he's well, hey, in therapy, like Black Ram said, we don't lie in therapy. And based on what he's trying to say is that after they've had their fun, many of them, then all of a sudden, I love the Lord and I want to settle down, And what guys are saying is saying, what am I getting in return? What am I getting in return? Because women of the past, what they brought to the table, and listen, I understand people can be redeemed. I'm not knocking nobody for that. I understand folks make bad choices. But masculine men are wired to want women. We understand you're human, but a lot of fun, a lot of guys don't want a chick that had a lot of fun, and that's subjective. So when men, what a man got 40, 50, 60 years ago was a woman that was mostly a virgin, or either she didn't have a lot of fun, no children, and she was wife ready. And I like something that you said. You said, I came in my marriage ready to serve my husband. Yeah. A lot of these women don't believe in service. They look at you like you crazy. And I'm going to tell you why. April Mason talked about it. And even though I think she got some unconscious pathologies, she talked about it. The basic things of giving a man a plate, a lot of women see that as a negative. Security boss. A plate, that's why I use Allen Iverson. He said practice. We're talking about practice. And so I'm saying a plate, we're talking about a plate. And Allen Iverson understood that practice for him was not necessarily necessary. A lot of women feel that the practicing of feminine demure is not necessary. And they don't feel like they have to practice to get the kind of men that they want. So men are saying, you know what, the hell with it. Like my friend Dr. Ron Neal said, that the future is Latina. And I came back from Brazil. and I'm doing a show. I got some production going on, and those women are just conditioned to be traditional. It doesn't mean that they have not been influenced by Western thought. But just like Sweet Lulu Bean was talking about, she's from the Hoysian culture of South Africa. Those women are conditioned to be feminine and to serve their men. And it appears to me that women that are raised in traditional patriarchal cultures tend to be more respectful of masculine authority and expectations. Just like I was talking to a young lady and she said, if my man asks me something to do, I obey my man. Now, if you tell a woman in this day and age, I obey my man, they look at you like you crazy. You got women right now, security boss, when you use the word honor and obey, they see that as a negative. But these are the same women that say they love the law. They say, I love the law. He heard my cry. These are the same women that say they love Jesus. But if you look at the gospel say in the book of Titus, women, wives, obey your husbands. Obey. But you can't tell women, the church don't even talk about, you can't tell modern women obey your husband because they have been conditioned to see the man as the enemy. Anytime we talk about men, guys, it's always from the negative. Men are always seen as the boogeyman. So they want to assault a man, they'll let them do what they want to do. But in actuality, women only respect power and strength. I said a lot, but tell me what you think about what I said, Sid.
I agree with you, but I do think that what I'm learning actually is that a lot of men actually like these modern women. I had a man on my show a couple of weeks ago, and he actually was the first male I ever heard say that he does want a modern woman. And it kind of shocked me.
I've heard some guys say that. Yeah, I heard a young brother.
I never heard it until then.
Right.
But it's got to be true because these women exist in relationships. And if everything is going a certain way and they're not fixing plates and everything is 50-50, that means the man and the woman are going for it. So there's a whole lot of men going for these type of relationships.
And you know why? Because many of those men have grown up in relationships where they never really seen masculine authority. And they're not traditional. A lot of our men have been conditioned to be simps. You know, some are unconscious simps, meaning they supplement irrational male patterns because they're not men, they're males. So you got a lot of unconscious simps, but then you got a lot of men that are conscious simps, meaning they sacrifice important masculine principles for the sake of assuaging a woman. And to some degree, I really can't blame the guys because they're saying, you know, I'm not getting a traditional woman 100%. So why am I giving a woman traditional virtues when she's not traditional herself?
I agree with that. I mean, that's what basically that was what his argument. Well, it wasn't an argument. That's what he said, and he said he's fine with it. He said he don't want no woman to sit down. You know, he was a high earner, and he said that's what he wanted. He said he wanted this woman to bring something. You know, go get your career or something. I want her to be modern. You know, he wasn't gonna be all about his money. It was gonna be about, you know, what she brought too. You know, so. He understood the concept and, you know, agreed with it. I got a question or two for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The first question is, the reason why I say honor and obey is because I want to go back and tell you this. I took my marriage vows very seriously.
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very seriously. Actually, I did not have a wedding. I went down to the courthouse and got married. And, you know, right when I heard the man say that and I was supposed to repeat it, I started to shake.
Oh, wow.
I did. Because, you know, at first I was just like, you know, I was going to get married. But when I heard what he said, it pierced me. It really shook me. And
I want you to freeze. Why did that shake you? Do you think you've been conditioned not to? You think because you were a modern woman, you were conditioned? Because I think a lot of women, security balls, have been conditioned to see marriage as slavery. And they always go back to that old tired trope of Mr. You know, Mr. was beating women, you know, and they don't never talk about why Mr. became Mr. I did a show in the past called Leave Mr. Alone. Because we don't talk about what the black men that were doing these atrocities was going to do. We don't talk about Jim Crow racism, how it impacted their psyche. We don't talk about seeing them going through bouts with the KKK. We don't see how these men didn't have jobs that made them become depressed or violent. We never think about the men as being human beings. We only see the men as subjugates to please the woman's feelings. And I get sick of it. I get real sick of it because we don't understand what those men went through. Human beings are a byproduct of their experiences. Would you agree with that?
I would, but to go back to that statement, why did I at that moment, I realized, first of all, it got very serious to me. And I realized that this was a covenant between me and God. And my husband was under him. So at that point, I just said to myself, "Ooh, I can't disappoint," because it wasn't anymore about my husband.
Right.
It just became really, really real to me at that moment. And I didn't take my husband out of it, but I just realized going through those vows and repeating and saying them that this was a covenant and a promise that I'm making to God.
Right. Right.
And
right.
and nowhere in the world you want to disappoint God. I mean, ooh, so it got real and I began to shake.
Right.
So,
right. Right.
that played a real big part in me trying to understand and to get it right. Because I didn't want to disappoint God. I did not want to do that. So I had to get it right. And it did. It shook me. So my point I'm trying to make by that is often I think people should write their own vows, because if you're going into a marriage, which marriage is a traditional thing, marriage is in the Bible. If that's what you truly want and you're calling it that, it should be just that, on godly principles. But if you're just looking for a union, y'all just come up with some nice words and some agreements and go ahead and say that so it can be outlined that way. But when you talk about marriage is a deep thing. It's just not just calling out some words. And that's when it got serious for me. Now, my next question for you is, how do you feel about foreign relationships? Like, with women in Brazil or wherever. I hear you talk about the passport, the passport. Well, I don't know if that's you or not, but the passport men, whether they're going all over the world looking for different mates. How do you feel about it?
Well, I feel very strongly about it. I believe in the avocation of all men, but most importantly, Black men. Many people try to shame Black men, security boss, saying, "Oh, you're only going over there to trick." And my point, if they are tricking, that's between them and God. But they're tricking here in America. And listen, I understand that there's some. I think you got to sometimes leave the demographics of where you're at. If you're living in Chicago, maybe you need to go to, I don't know, maybe you need to go to RDU, Raleigh Durham. You might need to go to different places where the women are a lot more traditional. But I would say, by and large, I think foreign women are just better equipped to give men what they want because they have been raised under traditional patriarchal norms. And so that's how it was for the Black community 20, 30, well, not even 20, 40, 50, 60 years ago, before we had first wave, second wave, third wave, and fourth wave feminism. Third wave and fourth wave feminism has been the death kill for the Black family and the Black relationships.
Yeah.
First wave feminism was fine, and second wave was okay because first wave to say, look, I want to get paid equally to a man. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with women getting paid what men get paid if they do the work. The problem is a lot of women want to get paid what men get paid, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to put in the work, but they want to continue to demand. And now it's gotten so bad that many want to be superior to the men. But back to point, when I traveled abroad, the women in foreign countries, when I listen to my dear friend, Sweet Lulu Bean, she exudes what foreign women exude, which is a high respect for masculine order and masculine authority. They respect the elders. They respect the leaders. They see the men as the mouthpiece or the mediators between God and her. But in our culture and society, we don't value our men. We don't value them because men have never seen masculine men in the families. Therefore, they fight masculine authority and power. Therefore, they want traditional norms of masculinity, but at the same time, they don't want to respect masculine authority. When a man is respected, that's love to him. A man's love currency is how you respect him as a man. But then men have to fight with social media. They have to fight with university indoctrination. They have so many things that they are fighting with when women in those countries are not dealing with the pull that many men in here in America are dealing with. And it's not to say, security boss, that those women are not being influenced by some of the ravages of feminism, but it's not as aggressive. A man has a higher probability of getting the kind of traditional woman that he wants in a foreign country than he will in America. And it does not mean that if you're a sucker in America, you're going to be a sucker abroad. And it doesn't mean that those women can't turn once they come here. I just feel if they are raised in traditional families where the community is strong, you have a greater chance. The probability is greater than the possibility, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, I think a good man deserves a good woman. So wherever he has to do to obtain that, I'm with it. I advocate for men. I want men to be whole because, like I said, we cannot live without you all. And it starts with you all. So,
Right.
and we got to get the family back because I have no idea what is happening to our culture. It's
Well,
going down a slippery slope.
it's going down a slippery slope. You're right, sis, and it's getting
very, very
worse.
quickly, and it's
Right.
sad. It's very sad because a lot of us are still blaming the white man.
I totally
Mhm.
agree with that. I totally agree. I agree with you 100% because, listen, the racist white supremacy play a role in the demise of the black community and family, yes. But you make the white man a god when you blame everything on white supremacy. You can't blame everything on white supremacy because buildings were being, listen, I'm in the Tar Heel state, the greatest state in the union. And so are you. You are now a Tar Heel.
I am too. Yep.
You're from the 704, I'm from the 252.
Right.
We had great institutions in the central part of North Carolina. We had Black Wall Street. I went to North Carolina Central University. Black Wall Street was the epicenter of black progress and black excellence. Wilmington, North Carolina was the epicenter of black excellence and progress. But what we had back then, security boss unsolicited, we had a stronger faith in God. And we had a stronger faith in community. And even the women that got their degrees back then, security boss unsolicited, they still respected masculine authority. The man was sending his wife to college, but she still, just because he was a farmer, she still respected him. She didn't see him as a farmer as being dusty. That's why I say if Jesus came here himself, some women would see Jesus as dusty. They said Jesus is dusty because he got on sandals. And because Jesus is not, he don't make six figure. So Jesus is dusty. They would have shot Jesus down.
Yes. See, that's a big fear because we were sent off to be what? Nurses and teachers.
Nurses and teachers, right.
That's what it was. And
right. Nurses and teachers, right.
But and that's us coming from the South. And it's
coming
just
from the
kind of,
South, right.
Clinician, you may do well with it, but when I hear some of the things, I just can't believe it. Because it's just, and what you're saying is that we had a foundation back then.
Oh, we had a foundation.
Right now we don't have foundation.
We don't have it. Listen,
right.
The gospel says you can't take new wine and put it into old wineskins. And that's what Anton was saying. You gotta burn the foundation because the ground is fallow. The Winans, they were a gospel group in the past. They said, break up that fallow ground. The ground is too hard. And the hearts of the modern woman is too hard to receive the instruction of masculine men. So what men are saying is to hell with it. Give me liberty or give me death. What the men are saying, I'm going to go to a place where I'm honored and respected. And here's the caveat to that. Only a small percentage of black men, Security Boss Unlimited, have passports. So it's a very small percentage. That's a very small percentage of Americans that have passports. So when people just think, black men are just traveling, in big numbers, they're not. It's a very small percentage. But the word is getting out that, listen, there's greater in foreign lands. Sweet Lulu Bean talked about how, black men in America are handsome. She respects black men. But black men have been so conditioned to see themselves as less than through a negative process called negative socialization that they don't even know how much power that they have. Black men, you have more power than you know. And it's my job as a therapist to more or less remodify that negative schema that you have. In the clinical world, a schema is a fixated way of thinking. And that affliction of that schema comes through pain and fear. And so many of our men have been traumatized to defer power instead of demanding power. That's why the women don't respect them. That's why I tell men to focus on your purpose. Don't worry about women. Women will come later. I'm having so much fun in my 50s because I'm making more money now. I'm a lot more polished now, I got that salt and pepper, but I'm a polished Leo,
right.
And so I don't really care about what a woman thinks about me. I don't care, one, because I'm married, but I don't care. And me and my wife been married for over 25 years, and my wife got out of line. She could go, and I love her, but I say if she got out of line, she can go. Beyonce said,
I'm about to check in with my husband to make sure he don't feel that way. Well, it's got to be Jeff do us part.
Well, listen.
I told you there might be a deal breaker there because we don't be playing. It's just sex is death these days. We don't play with certain things. I mean, you don't bring certain things into your relationship. A 25-year relationship is outstanding. even though it may not be perfect all the time, you haven't gotten to the point that you're so frustrated with the situation that you're gonna just walk away and think you're gonna get another one and it's gonna be better for you. So
What do you mean, the man or the woman?
either way,
I don't know. I think your husband right now.
don't be fooled.
No, hear me. I think your husband, it's you know, his metrics and his background and his intellect and his wealth. Maybe not in America, but I think men get more refined as we get older. I think your husband could get a high quality woman. Might not from America, but from another country. I really believe that because he's a lot more refined. Actually, in other countries, women like older established men. And there, a lot of times they're younger women, security balls. They might be 25 to 30 because they see age as a source of strength, and because it's a patriarchal culture, they respect. So I think if your husband say, you know what, and I know your husband loves you, but this say hypothetically if something happened to you, it's not a doubt in my mind that your husband can get a top tier woman with his wealth and his intellect and his stature at 6'3". Yeah, he could. I could. I can go to Colombia.
I'm gonna have to ask him. I'm sure he could get another woman. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
right.
I'm telling you, I don't think he would. I don't know. He tells me I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you something. It gets better for men. It gets better for the men as they get older. See, you know, it's how the sexual market works. As men get older and more established, their stock go up.
Yeah.
A woman, her greatest currency is her beauty and her virtue and her youth. But as she gets older, it diminishes. Therefore, she got to have something outside of her beauty. How can she contribute to a man? But see, a lot of women, as they get older, they still think that behind and sex is what's going to get them in the door. You got to have more than that. Because if a man is used to having sex with multiple women, he's not fazed by sex. It's no big deal.
You know what, Kosher? But I don't think that if something would have happened to my husband, and this is just me talking now because nothing's happened, I don't think that I could put what I've put into my husband to any other man.
I respect that. Yes, ma'am. I respect that.
Not at all.
I respect that. Because y'all got history. Y'all got a lot of history.
Yeah, and like I said, I read books about my husband. I wanted to know his personality, what made him think and do the things that he does. And it hasn't stopped because he's always changing. Not always changing, not like that. But he's growing, he's getting better, he's becoming more intellectual, he's learning more about he's humble. Now see, I say this a lot. I do think men should be more humble in relationships and know where they're weak. My husband can come and tell me, this is too much for me. I need your help. And I just appreciate that so much. Whereas another man may be going in circles and making the same mistakes over and over again because he just wants to be the masculine man of the relationship. And I just think it requires a lot of humility, a lot of self-reflection, and growth. Maturity.
Well, right. It does require all of that because just because you're the head does not mean you abuse power. I don't believe in the abuse of power just because you're the man. But I think a man should walk in his dominion. Shout out to my man Gerald Carter. Shout out to him for the $20 super chat. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate to the people that are giving. We got about 45 people in the house, guys. Please share the content. This is a great stream. We got a traditional sister. Security Boss Unlimited. I know you guys are shocked because
unlimited, unsolicited.
Unsolicited. Yeah,
unlimited. You know, you got people out there that just don't do things the right way.
I've been butchering your name, man. I'm calling all kinds of names. So I was laughing because I said, "Man, I messed the name up." But men are looking for women, traditional women like you. Many men feel that you are a relic of the past. They don't feel like women like you that stand strong by your man. You know. Loretta Lynn says, stand by your man. She made that song back in the 70s, I believe, or 80s. But many men just don't feel that women like you, I think they feel like women like you are far in between and you're from an older generation. What's your take on that?
I am from an older generation, but what I would say to that is this is me today. This is me. I would say this. If you can find a woman that really loves you, that's kind to you, that wants to be married and wants to be married with you, I think you need to marry her because she'll put in the work to become that helper for you. And she'll allow you to delegate whatever it is needs to be done within your marriage and allow you to be the head, not allow, but will get into her position and let you lead her. But it's work because women have brains. They are people. They have feelings. All this stuff does exist, but we definitely have to figure out where we fit in. And that's really important. I wasn't this person 26 years ago. I was not. but I wanted to be. So I had to get into it. I had to, like I said, read those books. I had to understand my husband. He had,
Well,
we just had to work it out.
well, educate me, because you said you went in with the mindset to honor and obey your husband.
Definitely.
But then you said you had to evolve. So it's confusing to me, because it seems like you were already ready to serve and to honor your husband. But then on the flip side, you said you had to evolve into it. So that's like it's a contradiction. Educate me.
Let me explain. In the physical, I knew I was a wife. I knew I had to manage the house. I knew I was going to cook the meals and fix the plate.
Yes, ma'am.
I knew that. Mentally, mentally, I was already educated, per se. Already a career woman, per se. I already was who I was, and I had to figure out how that needed to fit in with my husband's plan. My husband planned to have me as a security boss, which, again, we've been doing this almost 20 years.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
I know nothing about this business. Knew nothing about it. Knew nothing about it. I was a real estate agent. I sold houses. For 5 or 6 years, I made 6 figures. I made more money than my husband did.
Wow.
Okay, so all of these things had to come into consideration. We sit down, and I had to let him know, I'm still looking for you for the guidance on what way we need to go with this fortune. I didn't beat him over the head with it. I used to say things like, okay, this is no insecurities here. I'm an asset to you. How are you going to use it?
Right. I like that. Right.
That's what I mean.
Yes, ma'am.
I was only 25 when I got married. I wasn't a grown woman, by no means. I still had to manage. This is one thing I used to say to him. Before we got married, I had an apartment, car, everything on my own, right? And then I got married to him, and he had his own. But when we got together, the money was always short. I couldn't figure it out. I used to ask, how in the world is it that I can live alone and you can live alone? And, we do fine. But when we come together, the money is short. So we had to seek counseling about what are we doing wrong? How's the best way to do it? The counselor said something real simple. Put all the money in one pot. I put all the money in one pot. I didn't resist. I was never resistant to it, but I didn't know everything. That's what I'm saying. That's the evolution of it. I had to come into the wisdom of being a wife and a lady. I'm not saying I wasn't willing to do it. I knew what it looked like, but I needed the wisdom behind it. Needed to make sense to me. I'm a Libra.
Right.
It has to make sense. That's what I mean by that. It has to make sense. I just don't do stuff because it becomes chore.
Right.
I have a friend now that'll say to me right now to this day, "Oh, I don't do no chore cooking." I had to what chore cooking? I said, "Oh, okay." So that's what I mean by evolving. I had to rest in this. I knew what it looked like, or I knew what I was supposed to be doing, but it had to make sense to me.
And that very adage that she doesn't do any chore cooking is why American black men are saying the hell with it. American men in general. It hasn't gotten, look, you and I came out of high school 89, 90. Let's go back in time. Has it gotten better? No, it's gotten worse. You just saw, you got women attacking other women. They attacked Iyanla Vanzant. And even though I think April Mason makes some great points, I think she's still been indoctrinated by Western lore as well. They attacked Shahrazad Ali. And they attacked the other woman from Atlanta. They got out of the business of matchmaking because a lot of the women had unrealistic expectations. And so a lot of black men are saying, look, I'm good. I'm good, and we got a lot of American simps, but a lot of brothers are saying, look, I'm fine. I'd rather be by myself. I'd rather focus on myself. I'd rather go to a culture where the women are conditioned to serve and respect me. It doesn't mean those women in other countries don't have issues. It doesn't mean that those women won't try you, because women are going to be women regardless of where you go. I'm going to say it again. Women are women regardless of the culture. But men are the harnessers of the feminine. And if a woman have already been socialized to serve and to honor her man, it becomes easier for a man if he gets a woman that's been socialized to do it. I had a brother on my show called The American Brazilian, and he says like night and day dating his Afro-Latina wife versus American women. He says night and day. And so that's what men are looking for. And that's why you have guys like Top Gun, passport, brother. They're saying get that passport. With the understanding that women are
But you know what, Coach? I want to make sure. I want to make sure that we get this right. So I hope that I answered your question on the evolution. My mother, and she just recently died. My
I'm
mother
sorry
was
to hear that.
a wife to her heart. I mean, nothing stood in place of that, no matter what my dad did. And I always say I'm never going to tell that story. But I had to evolve in being this woman of today. I had to ask for godly wisdom in order to fulfill that. I knew what it looked like. I knew what I was supposed to do, but it had to make sense. That's what I mean. So I hope that doesn't, we got to get that straight because I don't contradict myself. My message has always been the same. I'm just telling
No,
you my
no, no,
real,
no. I respect your honesty. You're being genuine, and I know
yeah,
where
I'm
you're
telling
coming
my
from.
real life
Right,
journey, real life.
right. No, I love your honesty, but watch this. I got a caveat for you.
Okay.
But sometimes when you're walking in faith or respecting your man, it's not going to always make sense.
It won't.
Sometimes you just have to trust him and trust God. That it'll come together in the end. Like the old people used to say, Security Boss Unlimited. We don't understand things now, but we understand what? Better by and by. So it's a problem. Give me some good games. You about to take up a love offer because you're going to shoot about the shot.
It's unsolicited, and you're right. But that's what I'm talking about when I say.
Please forgive me for butchering your name. I keep
No, I'm not. Listen, that's what I'm talking about being mature. I'm talking about that's maturity. Maturity is what grows you up in the things that you can't control. That's the submissiveness of it. That's submission.
Right.
That's not. I didn't walk in the door being having submission because I didn't know what it looked like.
Right.
I mean, I know the physical things I was supposed to do, but you're talking about maturity. For me, I'm gonna just say it. I'm on your channel. Security in Christ, and like I said, His will. When I said that vow, at that point, it became real. It became
no doubt.
a covenant.
Respect. Right.
You know, and at that point, I said to myself, I'm never leaving. So if you're never leaving, you're submitting to what God has given you, and now you got to do what you're supposed to do. You know,
right.
And you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know, but your maturity allows you to, witness to things as you grow. And then for me, I think it just shows me there's confirmations along the way. For me, there's confirmations along the way. Like now, 26 years later, me and my husband if we have an argument, it's so stupid that we look at each other and kind of laugh, and I call him big head or something like that. And then I ain't gonna tell you what he says because it's not funny anymore. So, it's not funny anymore, but it used to be funny. And nothing bad, but it's just, so that's what we do now, 26 years later, because the things that were so serious and monumental back then, they're not.
Well, you're a great woman. And I'm sure your husband ain't gonna let you go because you were conditioned like women were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You weren't more or less socialized to think like most modern women. So if God forbid something happens to me and my wife, I wouldn't deal with the typical modern woman. I just don't, because I'm very demanding, but not in a bad way. I'm very loving. I'm old school romantic, but I have high demands because I know what my worth is. And I know what I can get.
I see before the billions over there, femininity unlimited. Listen, you got him saying unlimited now. Unsolicited. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just getting ready to say though, it's I just would like to have people that want to be married to put in the work. Don't I just don't want them to let go because it's not always perfect when you're going through. And Coach, you can teach this better than I can. There are 7 stages to a marriage. So, you got the calming, the norming. You have to go through certain things in order for it to be a place where you can relax into it. Up until that point, it's definitely you have to be mature. It's because you're becoming one. Can you imagine becoming one with somebody being easy? You got to get in where you fit.
Wait, you can't become one if you think you're better by default.
No, you cannot.
You're not. And see, that's the problem with the typical modern woman. She comes in the relationship thinking she's better. She thinks she's better.
That doesn't make sense to me. That makes no sense. If somebody's job is to protect me, I don't know how I can be better.
Well, it's because, like I said, most modern men, I like what one brother said, Western culture has messed up a lot of black men. Black men have been conditioned, and American men in general have been conditioned to be simps. They have, because they don't demand anything. And what they don't realize is that in other countries, they will be respected. but they got to go do a lot of therapy. Black men need therapy. That's why I became a therapist back in 2009. I knew it was important. And it's even more important now. That's why I want to liberate as many young men, but also Black men as possible, also all American men, regardless of race, because many have been conditioned to see themselves as less than. And until they break that psychic mold that's been impacting on them mentally, they're going to continue to go do some of the ravages. Security balls unsolicited. Unsolicited. I got it right.
I think I was getting ready. Did I say it? I don't know.
You said unlimited. You said security balls
Lord. Unsolicited. Listen, Kosher, do you think that Black men need one-on-one therapy, or do you think they can benefit from like the men's nights in the barbershops?
Well, my channel is a culmination of both. The Manhood Chronicles is the show that I'm projecting today because it talks about the chronicles and the stories that men go through. So this show today was more or less formatted from the Manhood Chronicles. This is a virtual barbershop. And I'm going to drop the link at some point to have the men to come up and talk. But they're definitely benefiting. I've heard men saying they're getting more out of these kind of platforms than they are from church and going to this regular therapy. Because most traditional therapists don't teach things through the masculinist lens. They teach it through the white feminist theory lens, which says empower the woman, see the man as bad. That's how they teach them. And so a lot of men gain strength, clarity, and insight from these platforms, especially my platform. And that's why, guys, to the 41 that are listening, I need you guys to share the content. I need you guys to share it. We got to get this channel out because I am a licensed clinical therapist from the Tar Heel State with security balls unsolicited. And I went to one of the best schools in the country, not trying to brag, but it don't get no better than being a Tar Heel. Carolina is one of the best schools in the nation.
I agree.
And Carolina
didn't make things South, though. I think all things South, thumbs up. But listen, Kosher, if you're done with me, can I shout out my show for tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, sis. You can talk as long as you want to, but if you got to go, I understand. But go ahead and shout out the show. Go ahead.
I do need to go. I got to get ready for my show. And unlike you, it takes me a while to get things in order. You did it very well. So.
That's that Leo Dome. You
done thought about it all day and all night. So you can easily put it together. It's a little different for me. But yes, everyone that's here, and I want you definitely to share this show, but I definitely want you to come over tonight live with Security Boss Unsolicited. I am speaking about, can masculine energy be attractive in a woman? Can masculine energy be attractive in a woman? We're going to get into it. I would like to have all the comments. I want some of you all to cam up. I just want to hear what you say. I have to add, and I want y'all to hear what I'm adding, because I'm going to tell you this, and y'all can hold it against me if you like. I am the young lady with the Charger with the 707 horsepower, the Hellcat, the fast cars. I love that stuff. I love lifting weights. That's what I used to do. I love sports. I love all those things that some would associate with masculine energy. But like I said earlier on, I feel as though I've been a lady since 19 years old. So I want to talk about that because, I don't want it to be a talking point. I want everybody to, see how we all can carry masculine and feminine energy, men and women. So I need y'all to be there if possible. And, look, the Ingram experience says no because you're thinking of it negatively.
I know where you're going. That you're trying to say, Ingram is a Libra like you, but I know where you're going. That you're trying to say that those things like playing basketball, playing sports, and doing those things with your husband, as long as it's harnessed correctly. If you're talking about in that way, then I don't have an issue with it. But if you're talking about to the point where you're challenging his authority, you're gonna always win and be competitive, then no. It's horrible.
I'm just saying that the world has now kind of made all those things, like even my husband, but he does it. I don't. He used to say, you used to be a little tomboy because I hung out with my dad.
Right.
But I've never been a tomboy. I've always been the lady, but I'm going to talk about it. I want to hear what you all have to say. I'm open to your points, but I want y'all to think about it though, because we're talking about masculine energy. Masculine energy is only energy. It's the source. It's where we're pulling it from. So just get that right. But anyway, make sure you come to Security Boss Unsolicited. Right. very important that you come to Unsolicited.
Unsolicited.
Pam,
Right.
I just want you there. I appreciate, listen, Kosher, I appreciate so much that you had me here today.
No, right. Listen, it was off the cusp. You know, I was researching. You know, I always like to reflect on my shows, and I said, I'll be damned. I said, Security Boss Unsolicited got the spirit of the mongoose, like Sweet Lulu Bean. Because that's what we need. We need women to have the spirit of the mongoose, resilient, able to fight the snakes of modern women, able to take the venom and bounce back and continue to defend family, faith, and tradition. And
How
so
about
that,
just be an example? You know,
well, being an example is having the spirit of the mongoose.
Absolutely.
It's a combination of all of it. It's not only for face value, but it's also in word and deed. It's a combination of all.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna have to sign out, but I hope to see you later. And
no,
have
no doubt.
Good,
we're gonna
good
chop it
rest
up
of your show, and then you come in there and say something. You know, you got to add your masculine energy to. Oh, no. Let's say it better. That Leo energy.
Hey, man, if it ain't Leo, it ain't right. So
there you go. All right. Thank y'all.
All right, sis.
Tonight.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care. Salute. All right, be good, sis. All right, bye-bye.